Hey there everyone, welcome back to the Midwest Stitches YouTube channel. My name is Danielle and this is my channel where I talk all about my crafting adventures. Today is Thursday, June 26th, and I've got a couple of finished objects to show you, some updates on my blanket progress, and that's really it. So it should be a relatively shorter episode, so grab a drink or a snack, your knitting or your crochet or whatever you're working on, and let's catch up. You can find me on Instagram at midwest.stitches, and you can find all of my crochet and knit projects on Ravelry at Midwest Stitches on there. And then of course there is my newly revamped website, midweststitches.com, that has my Yarn Nerd merch on it, and my dishcloth pattern that I released earlier this month, Hourglass, if you want to head on over there and check that out. Okay, let's get into the projects. So first up, I have these socks that I finished since the last time. These are the Vineyard colorway from Granite State Yarns, and I did these fingering weight held double using the Crazy Sock Ladies DK Weight Vanilla Sock pattern that is a free pattern on Ravelry. And for these I used a 2.75 millimeter needle, magic loop. I did the medium size 48 stitches, and I want to say this was, what did I do, 15 rounds for the cuff, and then I think it was 35 rounds. It's on the Ravelry page. I have all my notes on there. However, for this one, I did not win at Yarn Chicken. You can't really tell though, but on this second one, right there at the toe, I think I had, what was that? The last decrease round right here, and then kitchenering or closing it up. So, ooh, and I've got an end sticking out right there. Oh, anyway. So I didn't win at Yarn Chicken on this, but I mean, if I hadn't added this color into my Little Squares knitted blanket, I would have had obviously more than enough, but I think that color, it blends really well. You can't really tell. So I just picked that out of my stash. I think that was a Mandy's Makings color that I had used for socks for my grandpa, and I had some leftovers, so I just picked that, threw it in there. I'm not bothered. So there are those. My second finished object are these socks. Ooh, look how bright those are. So these are the shorty pattern that I always use, but the yarn is Windbreaker with, I think she called it lime green. This is from Granite State Yarns as well. And this was one of the yarns. They were both yarns in the picture that I showed the last time of my summer basket. So that's two. Actually, I think, yeah. So two so far out of the 9. And for these, I did my normal shorty pattern, which is 8 rounds for the cuff, 4 or 5 rounds, depending on the sock for the leg. Then I do my heel flap and gusset. This is 64 stitches. I use the Crazy Sock Ladies vanilla socks on magic loop pattern for all of my socks. That's the video that she has on YouTube. That's where I learned from. So those are the instructions that I follow for the toe and basically everything. So these were fun. The sock set was a 50 gram and a 50 gram and a 20 gram. So I have obviously some leftovers, which I'm going to add into one of my blankets, and then whatever's left over from that I will put into a scrap bag that I have. So for these, I actually did a little experiment. You won't be able to really tell, but I actually made the heel flap 2 rows longer. Instead of the normal 32 that I would do for a 64 stitch count sock, instead of a 32 row heel flap, I did 34. So for the socks that I've knit with this like particular recipe so far, I've kind of found that it feels like, I don't know if it's true, but it feels like they just kind of slit down just a little bit more than I would like. So in trying to add some height to the back, I've been kind of in my mind playing with different ways to do that, but none of them have worked out. And so I don't know why it didn't occur to me before now to just make the heel flap longer, because that would obviously bring the back up just a little bit. And it doesn't affect the fit here in the gusset. I just decrease those out like I would normally. I just pick up 17 stitches, decrease them out. And I think it actually, for me, it makes for a slightly better fit across here because it's giving me just a slight bit of extra room. And so normally the socks don't pull across the instep for me with this, with the 32 stitch, but this just gives just a little bit extra, and I don't find them to be loose or baggy. So there are those. Oh, and I don't think I said, 2mm needles is what I use for my fingering weight socks. All right, on to works in progress. So I have one sock project going at the moment, and I'm so in love with these. I love what I chose to do with these. So the sock set I have in this bag. I love this print. And then there it is in there. So you can see it's a patriotic themed set. So that is Stitchin' with Yarn, her American flag sock set. It's 250 grams. And I think, if I'm remembering correctly, she's dyeing up. She had a pre-order up, but she is dyeing up, I think a couple of extras. So you'll just have to follow her on Instagram if you're interested in this. But out of the pair, I did finish one so far. And you guys are not ready for this. It is just amazing looking. Look how amazing that looks. So for these, I'm following the same recipe, needle size, all that kind of stuff from the last one. The only thing I did was I followed the Crazy Sock Lady. She has a tutorial on her YouTube. I almost said Instagram. On her YouTube. I think it's called Striping 2 Colors or something in a sock or something like that. She has a playlist with her tutorials. It's on there. And she just kind of walks you through how to change the colors, do your heel flap, like all that kind of stuff. She walks you through everything. It's a really good one. And how to hold the yarns throughout so that you're not cutting the colors, because that would be insane to weave in all of those ends. So this one, I followed that. It's just striping every 2 colors, and I love the way it looks. I think it looks amazing. This is my first time ever doing this 2-stripe method, and I will say, I don't know how well it's going to show up because this is the side where I carried the yarns. I did pull a little too much. So if I took it off the blocker and showed it to you, it kind of skews to one side, but it fits just fine. So I'm not worried about that. I'm just making sure on the second sock to be mindful of that. You have to pull the yarn a little bit to tighten up the stitches, but I think I was a little too overzealous with it. So you learn and you move on. So anyway, for these, so Stitchin' with Yarn, it is a 75-25 base, but I find that this is a little bit thicker of a 75-25 than the one I showed you before from Granite State Yarns. So on this, I've used her yarn before, and I've done the 64 stitches, and they fit just fine, but I find they're a little bit loose. So for this one, I decided, okay, I'm going to go down to 60 stitches, but I still did the longer heel flap for this. So it's a 60 stitch count sock, but I did 34 rows for the heel flap, just to bring that up a little bit. And I tried it on, and it fits just fine. So there is that. And I do have the second one going. I switched the colors, the color placement around. So I'm still working on this one. So I swapped the cuff color and the heel color. And for this one, I wasn't really intending on like this order with the toe, and I started out with the cuff, and I was going to do the heel and the toe in the blue. It just didn't work out that way. So I did 5 rounds for these for me to reach the color if you're doing a longer leg, it's easier to get to where you could do that. It just wasn't going to work out for how I did it. I don't really know how to explain that, but it doesn't matter. And then for the toe, I just used my sock ruler, and then when I got to the toe, whatever color I was on, that's the one I stuck with. So that's the only reason it turned out to be the blue. It might turn out to be the blue for the second one. It just depends, because my tension and gauge are not consistent all the time. I have no idea why, but sometimes I have a looser row and then maybe a tighter row. I just go with the measurement from the sock ruler and use that to determine how long I knit it. I don't use markers or anything because that is not consistent for me. I swapped the colors. The cuff is in the red, heel is in the blue. We will see what happens for the toe. It might be in the red. I don't know. But anyway, loving these. I decided to do this just because I thought it would look really cool, and I'm super glad that I did. I will say it gets a little, it's not too bad, you know, with the two yarns holding them together. As long as you have a bag, like, you know, that can just hold the two cakes, or if you have maybe them in yarn cozies to kind of keep them from maybe tangling up on each other. It's a little bit of yarn management, but I don't think it's any different than doing socks two at a time, where you have two cakes of yarn in the same bag and you're having to manage them not wrapping around each other. So I don't know if I'll do that again. I have a lot of like share a pair sets from Mandy's Makings that you could do that with, but we'll see. I'm just going by basically smallest to largest projects here. All right. So I wanted to update you on my Little Squares knitted blanket. You saw the finished attached strip from the last time, and I finally got to start the Intarsia strip that I talked about. So that's the front. This is the back, where you carry the yarn, where you cross them. And not too bad. This took a little bit of practice. I watched a bunch of videos on how to do Intarsia, and doing it garter stitch like this versus stockinette are a little bit different. They're not too different, but where you have to place the yarn when you're crossing them over. So if you're interested in this, just watch a bunch of different videos, find one that resonates with you on how to kind of, because every video I watched, they did it a little bit different on how you manage the colors. And there was one video I watched where she was managing like 8 colors at once. It was crazy. I don't think I could do that. This is 3 colors. Have one color of white. As you can see, I have 2 balls going, for one for this side, one for this side, and then of course the color in the middle. And so far, I'm really liking it. I think that this, I wish I would have thought of this when I started this blanket, just because I think it makes it easier. I only have 2 ends to weave in per color block, one here, one here. It's, you know, that makes it a lot easier. So anyway, I will have 2 more colors the next time. These are the leftovers from the Windbreaker socks. So I will add those in and report back. This is pretty enjoyable. I think 3 colors is about all that I could manage for this. But yeah, definitely a cool technique. I'm enjoying it. So there is that project update. My star blanket, I don't remember the last time if I had finished the color that I was on. It was the Granite State Yarns, I think it was Evergreen Glow. I did finish that color and I'm on the next color, but I haven't worked on that in probably a week or 2 because I have been focused on these. So I will show the star blanket probably the next time because I'll have some work done on it and hopefully another color added in. But I've been focusing on these strips. These are, I'll just show one. These are the strips for my flower blanket. So I've added all of the colors. They're all connected and I have them labeled I have just a little piece of paper with the number on it for the row. And I have a picture on my phone of the layout. So I'm covered both ways. I have a picture of how they're all supposed to be laid out, and then I put the labels on the left side of how they're supposed to be connected. So I just finished the last strip, the connecting color on it. Was it yesterday? I think yesterday sometime. Anyway, I just barely eked out the last hexagons to join the full strip together to get that last strip completed, and I'm completely out of yarn. I have like these little teeny tiny, I have like maybe 5 grams left of one ball, and it's not enough to do anything with, so I have to order more yarn. I did not calculate that correctly at all. But I did have to break into a skein of yarn. I had a 50 gram, it was a fingering weight of the same color. It came with a sock set that I haven't knit up yet, but I had that caked up. And so I had to use it to do 2 hexagons on the last bit of joining. No big deal. I still have enough for that color for those socks that I'm going to do later in the year. But they are done. They are joined, and I am ready to put these away in their bag and just put this in timeout for a little bit. I've been crocheting on this like a mad woman over the last 2.5 weeks or whatever, because I wanted to get it done. I wanted to use up the yarn that I had, the connecting color, to see how far it would get me. And as I got closer, I was like, oh no, I did not do the math right on this at all. I definitely need more yarn. So I've placed an order with Kimber's Cozy Creations for more of the joining color, and we'll see when it gets here. I'm thinking for the month of July, I'm just going to take a break from this completely. I don't know when she's going to be able to get that yarn to me. It's kind of up in the air. It might be soon. It might be later. Who knows? I think either way, I'm going to take a break from this in July and just kind of give my hands a rest from this much crochet. So there is that. Hopefully you will see that in August, and by September I might have it done, because I did the math again. I did the math again. Now that I have these strips joined together, I have 4 joining rows I have to do to connect it all together, and each row takes 15 hexagons. So I have 60 hexagons left that I have to crochet to connect all of these together. And, you know, if I start back August 1st, I will have it done by the end of the month if I do just 2 hexagons a day. And that basically is like no time at all for me to do that. So I think that's kind of my goal. Whenever I get the yarn, it doesn't matter if I get it in July, if I get it in August, 30 days from whenever that is when I hope to have this done. So I could very possibly have this done before the start of fall, which is so very exciting, because we are in a heat wave right now, and I just truly do not like summer at all. It is the worst. I don't care what anyone says. It is awful. It's been so hot and humid and just gross here for over a week, and I don't like it. I don't like summer. I don't care if you love it. Good for you. I hate it. I love fall and winter. I don't like being hot and sticky, and I don't like bugs and the humidity, and just, no thank you. It's the worst. So that's my thoughts on that. That's Danielle's rant for the day. Okay, that's pretty much it. That's all my projects. Oh, I almost forgot. I have a sewing one. It's right here. You've been staring at it the whole time. This right here, this quilt top, I made this over the weekend, this last weekend. So I already had the strips cut. This was from a fat quarter set that I got from Joann's, I don't know, maybe a year ago or so. And I will show it more up close when it's done. I don't have it quilted. It's currently basted. I have it spray basted to the batting and underneath the backing of the quilt. And this fabric was originally going to be a rug. I wanted to make a jelly roll rug with it. And I showed a jelly roll rug I made a couple months ago, but I don't really have the setup to make jelly roll rugs right now. It was really fun. I really enjoyed the process of that. If you don't know what that is, you can either go back and watch, I don't know however many episodes ago that was, or just look that up on YouTube. But they are super fun to make. But you have to have a completely flat surface next to your sewing machine to keep it from getting wavy or misshapen. And you don't want a wavy rug. It's a tripping hazard in your house. So I just don't have that space or, you know, the ability currently to make a flat sewing surface to do a larger rug. I wanted a round rug, like a 56 or 60 inch one, and I don't have the space to make a flat surface currently to do that. Anyway, that's that's irrelevant. So I decided, okay, I'm going to make this into a quilt. So I went through my stash. I already had this cut up into the strips. I did that a long time ago. And so I went looking in my stash. Okay, what can I use for the sashing, which is the small strips in between each of the blocks of the strips. And I had enough to do what you see here, which is the sashing in between each block, these little strips, and then these longer strips, which are on all four sides. They're half the width of these blocks. These are 8-inch blocks. So these are 4-inch strips on the outside. And then the backing is another yellow fabric that I have. It is a different print. You'd have to see it up close to see the print on it. They both have a print, but they're different. And I actually had enough I had to cut it a certain way and sew it together to make the back work, but I had enough to do it. And I had the batting already. So I had everything in stash is where I'm going with that. I had everything in stash, and I even have fabric that I picked out from my stash for the binding of it. So I didn't have to purchase anything. I even had thread. I had yellow thread, a light yellow thread to match the colors that I'm going to quilt it with. So that was super exciting for me because I have a bunch of 2.5-inch strips. I basically went on like a cutting tirade, if you will, cutting, frenzy, where I took almost my entire fabric stash and I cut it all into 2.5-inch strips because I had it in my mind. I was like, oh, I can make jelly roll rugs with all of these and have I can make placemats and rugs and I can do all kinds of fun things. Then currently that is not going to work out. However, I can do things like this. I could do smaller items. There's all kinds of stuff I could do with the strips. So it's not a complete loss there, but that was the intention behind cutting all of those up like a mad woman. So this is not quite a twin size quilt. I think the measurements are 40, I want to say it's 46 by 61. So like 4 by 5. So it's going to be a good lap size quilt. And that's okay with me because smaller things like this I can quilt. I made a king size quilt for our bed. It was originally a queen, and then we got a king size, so I had to add to it, and it was a whole thing. Quilting it was a nightmare, and I didn't even do anything fancy because it was so heavy. It hurt my shoulders. I said I would never make another quilt again. I will not make another quilt that size ever again unless I send it off to be quilted. Making the quilt top, that is like a breeze for any size. That is lightweight. It's the quilting part of it where you're moving it around your machine and you're kind of hunched over. So if I wanted a different quilt for our bed, I would totally make the quilt top and piece it together, no problem. But I would send it off to someone with a long arm to quilt it. And we have a bunch of quilt shops local to us that have long arm machines, so that's not a big deal. It just costs extra money. So anyway, hopefully I will have that quilted the next time and done, and I can show it to you guys. So there's all my projects. The Christmas secret project that I'm working on, I still don't want to talk about that just yet because I'm still working up some swatches with the yarn and trying to figure out sizing and all that kind of stuff. So once I have some of it put together, I will show what I'm working on and explain it. I have it drawn out in a diagram. So I can show you what it will look like, but I just don't want to show that right now. So that one is going to remain a secret for the time being. Other than that, that is all I have for you guys today. A short and sweet kind of episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, hit the like button. And if you aren't subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button. And I will see you guys next time. Take care and God bless. Bye.